You know, they say test, test, test. What is it we're testing? Well, we'll talk about that a little more today on the program. So we do have Dr. J.O.C. Samuels, who is the Director of Lab Services, API, and Public Health Initiatives. That's also Health Systems Engineering expert, but he's part of those lab services advising the PTF COVID-19. He joins us from our studios in Abuja. Good morning, Mr. Samuels. Thank you for joining us today. Well, there's been a lot of focus on tests, and rightly so, but we do have peculiar cases here, or if I could use the word, because we've seen different perspectives. The NCDC says we're targeting, what, 4,000 tests per day. Lagos, we see how many that they've been able to test as well, over 100,000 people, if I remember that. And then the NCDC also announcing how they're trying to ramp up the various test centers wherever we have them. But this is where you're in, and you have at least advising the PTF means you have some key details about this. What can you tell us about where we are now and why we do have the kind of results we have as a result of our testing capacity?
Okay, once again, Chamberlain, I want to thank you for having me on your program this morning. Okay, before I go forward, let me just say, okay, I don't think we are doing enough testing at the moment. So why do I say that? Let's just step back a bit and look at, I'd like to use the USA as a comparison. You know, some weeks ago, the US president was facing a lot of hate that the country was not tested enough. Even to this very moment, they were not tested. People are saying that even though they have done like 3.1 million tests as at last night, but people are still not satisfied with the number of tests that they have done. But now, when you look back those few weeks back, what did they do? What did the government do? What did the president do? Okay, why are we not testing? Is it a matter of policy? Is it a matter of protocol? So they looked at their pipeline, all the different things that they needed to do. And one of the first things to do was to relax the policy on testing, because initially every country in the world was using the WHO-approved RT-PCR reagent for testing. But US, in their own wisdom, decided not to use that. The US CDC did their own reagent, which they were using, but that turns out to be not very popular even within the professionals in the country. But now, after that, what did they do? They look at their own system and say, okay, we need to revise our protocol, relax our protocol for testing. At the same time, they encourage the manufacturers of, incidentally, they are one of the leading international countries in the world. So they encouraged the manufacturers there to speed up the process for their test kits. And one of the first things that we saw with that was Roche, who is one of the leading providers in the world, came up with a test, and the FDA, which is like their own NAFDAC, or let's say, the FDA, let me just leave it at that. The FDA did what they call emergency use authorization to approve that test kit from Roche. And under normal circumstances, right, they won't, the process will have been longer. That's why they use they use that fast track process of EUA. Because that's what you do in emergency situations. Then further down the line, within a matter of days as well, they did the same thing for the Abbott platforms, and they did the same thing for another manufacturer, Cepheid, which manufactures a gene expert machine. Now, so what does that mean? So that sort of opened up the testing ecosystem for the US, because
jump in there before you go further. Pardon me.
Everybody
when you talk about us relaxing the protocol, I hope you can hear me. When you talk about relaxing the protocol, isn't it right that it has to be, as it progresses, then countries review the protocol and ensure that they adapt what will work for them, because there isn't a one-size-fits-all kind of template to approach globally for this one. It has to be tailored to fit each country specifically. But regarding those particular templates, here we did say, look, if you have symptoms, depending on what kind of symptoms, those are the people that needed to come forward first so that they can test them. Isn't that the right thing to do? Because if everybody rushed to go for that testing at that point in time, number one is that the resources won't be there anymore, and then it will be a worst-case scenario. So weren't we right to have said, no, let's attend to those who have got symptoms first before several other people?
Okay, I mean, you need to understand that even if you want to follow that protocol, right, the number of people that you need to test. I mean, okay, like this platform we are using currently, that every person was using currently, the RT, you cannot do more than 96 samples in a run, which take about two hours. So in an emergency situation, you cannot, how many can you do in a day? That is why, even though you want to be using your screening protocol in terms of who is symptomatic or asymptomatic, but in a situation where you have a pandemic, you want to make sure that you expand your testing capacity. So why I'm saying all of this is that in Nigeria now, since February 27 that we had the first case, and today, as of today now, this thing has spread to 20 states. Right? And you see the case of what happened yesterday, Lagos State, I think they did their own testing and they are doing house-to-house testing. So you want to tell me that it's based on the symptoms that they were doing house-to-house testing and they came up with those numbers? So what this is telling us that whether we like it or not, this thing is right there all over the country. And we will not know unless we do the testing. But right now, the platform that we are using, I mean, okay, we have, NCDC has ramped up their testing network from initial 4 to about 7, maybe 11 now. But what I'm trying to let you understand is that right here in Nigeria, we have the capacity, as we speak right now, to do up to 35,000 tests per day.
Wait. If we have for 35, if we have that much capacity,
that.
But if you say we have that much capacity, does the NCTC share the same view?
Of course, they should. I mean, it's not about sharing the view. But let me tell you, right there in NCDC, the lab in Gadoa, they have 2 of the Abbott platforms. Each one can do 3,000 tests in a day, in 24 hours. So if they put the 2 to use, they will do 6,000 tests in 24 hours. But those platforms are not being used as we speak because they are still using the RT-PCR platform, which is a manual system.
Right. We'll come to some of the issues you have raised.
It's not like fighting forth with the NCDC. NCDC is doing what it should do. But I'm talking about as a government, as a nation, what are the policy makers, the leaders, what are we doing? We don't see there seems not to be an urgency for us to tackle this COVID-19 pandemic because we seem to be taking it in our strides. But as I speak to you, that I know that a lot of people, a lot of partners are actually involved in getting in the processes to unlock this potential so that we can be using this platform to test. But government is missing in all of this. We need to see that
we'll take a look at some of the issues. We'll take a look at some of the issues you have raised because the DG of the NCDC yesterday during the PTF briefing said, well, we have capacity, but he mentioned some of the challenges which we'll look into. But, you know, with the approach we're taking to this test, the RT-PCR method and the other ones, I mean, trying to relax the protocol and ensuring that it's more liberalized, in quote, there's a question of accuracy, okay? They say that the government of Nigeria says the one we're using is perhaps more accurate, such that you do it once and then you repeat it. Don't you think that there will be a challenge of accuracy if we sort of liberalize this protocol, in quote?
It's still the same PCR protocol, even on these automated platforms. I mean, if you understand what a PCR protocol is, it's just when you take a sample, whether it is blood, swab, or whatever it is, sputum, the PCR technique, and then if there is that pathogen inside that sample, no matter how small it is, it picks it and amplifies it into millions. So getting error reading is very, very minimal. It's very, very precise. The PCR technique is very, very precise. So, but that's okay, like it's like this. What the NCDC is using right now to do the testing is like using a Toyota Corolla in a car race against a Ferrari. You have a Ferrari parked in your backyard. You prefer to use your Corolla in a Formula One race. How are you going to win the race, or are you going to meet up with the rest of the competitors? That's what we're saying. It's the same testing technique, but the one is a manual one and the other one is fully automated. And you can do a lot more. It's not about quality. The quality is the same thing.
I was thinking you meant that we should liberalize it such that, other laboratories that are perhaps not in that network can also conduct tests. But let me take you to what the NCDC DG said yesterday. Now, he said that the problem is not with the capacity. In fact, he said that the government had provided enough, resources to have capacity. But here's what he said. He said that the challenge is how active our public health workforce is in collecting samples, identifying suspect cases, sending them into the lab for testing. So at this point, he fingers the public health workforce. I know you've been involved, with the public health workforce over time during the process of conducting your activities. What do you see in that regard?
Well, I don't think it's. I don't want to read that statement as being fingering the public health workforce. The thing is that. What we should try to all understand is that molecular diagnostics techniques is not for every lab scientist. It's not for all comers. It's a very, very highly technical technique. People have to be trained on it. But that being said, we have trained people over the years in Nigeria that have the capabilities to do this. Now, what I think is referring to is the availability of the large number, because what we have before the pandemic is a different thing when you're overwhelmed with numbers. So that is one of the things we need to do. Along the value chain of testing, is you can have all of the testing platform in this world, all of the test kits in this world, but if you don't have the right personnel that have been trained, even to collect the samples is a challenge, because what NCDC does right now, to my understanding right now, is they visit you at your places and collect the samples. Now, if you only have 2, 3, or 4 teams doing that, you try to imagine how long it will take for those teams to cover, if you are covering 10 or 20 people before in your regular day-to-day work. Now in a pandemic, you have to be dealing with thousands. Try to imagine how long it will take for those teams. So what they need to do is for them to now expand the number of people that are going around doing the sample collection. So they need to look for people that are competent, that are trainable, that cannot be now deployed to go and do this sample collection. So I think that is what the NCDC DG is referring to in that. But that is where the role of, because NCDC is a very technical organization, agency. They are doing what they should do, but they need to be enabled by policy or otherwise, or to be able to do more in terms of giving them all the right resources for them to do what they need to do. So, and that is where I think that the government can do a lot more, because I have not, for instance, heard, there's this call for volunteers. We want all kind of personnel to come and support the national response, whether being a lab scientist, being doctors, being nurses. Please come. We need you, and this is what you want, where you want to do me. Those urgencies are not there. Like I speak to you now, there are people working in the health sector that are ready to volunteer, but they don't know where to go, or nobody's asking them to come up and support this national response.
When you say that it's like having a Ferrari and driving another one where the Ferrari can achieve a lot more. So when the NCDC says, look, it's not about that, we do have workforce, but you also refer to the challenge being partly personnel. Or perhaps I should even just ask you directly. So why then do you think that we're not taking advantage, or why will we have a digitized system and then we're going analog? Why is that so?
that's the question, $1 million question that even me, I cannot answer. And that has to do with the policy side of it in terms of testing. Because if you insist on testing only symptomatic or people that have been exposed, or what I'm not very familiar with the screening protocol for picking who to test. But that is the beginning, because except we have agreed that as a country we don't want to test a lot of people. But personally, I think that all of the people that have travel history that currently the NCDC is monitoring in terms of by phone calls or even by visits as a start, because the cost of screening or testing everybody that is a suspect is actually less than the cost of a real pandemic in this country. Because so far we have been lucky in the sense that the type of for one reason or the other, our kind of affliction of this disease has been kind of mild to medium. We have not had very severe cases. So the cost of actually doing mass testing, in terms, when I say mass testing, I'm not saying you should test every Tom, Dick, and Harry. All the people that are suspect cases that are being followed, what stops us from? Because we still have the cases of people that were exposed that still say they are still not being tested. Well, whereas we have seen people that have been tested that didn't show symptoms because they are highly placed, they were able to get tested. So that policy, that policy about who gets tested is not very clear. And I don't know why we are very reluctant in doing a more aggressive testing protocol where everybody that is suspect, because we have nothing to lose. Especially once we have the platform that can do it within a number of days, what are we waiting for? Do you want to wait until it's all over the whole country before we now start deciding that, we want to test, or when we don't have a hold over it anymore? Those are the concerns that people in the health sector. The other day I read, I personally have this view that we are going to be tested enough from time, but I really got agitated when I saw some messages from a renowned professor of biology in Nigeria that he has apparently written to the minister that we should do more testing. I said, well, I am not alone in this area. Then, if a professor of biology of that cadre, a professor emeritus, can be advocating for testing, that means I'm not far from it.
Well, then, it would seem, talking about policy, what you mentioned earlier, it would seem that there's some kind of variance from what the states are doing as opposed to what the federal government is doing from what you're telling us now. Because just yesterday we were informed by the Lagos state government that they have tested up to 118,000 households or people in Lagos, and some 119 people have showed some certain kinds of symptoms which they are trying to verify. Oyo State has just evolved a drive-through or walk-through testing system. Ogun State has developed testing capacity of up to 1,000 people. Yet, you said that as far as the NCDC is concerned, they have up to 35,000 testing capacity, but they haven't been able to do that. So are you saying, or is there a likelihood that we have the policies are at variance, both on the federal and the state levels?
Of course, it's very obvious, but the federal government should drive the policy. They should decide what policy we should follow, and states can, adjust according to their needs, or what meets their own needs. So now, if you tell me Lagos State is going from house to house, I don't know the criteria that determines the homes that they go to. Is it the homes of people that have had travel history, or the homes of people that are exposed to people that traveled, or they just go do a random home to home? I don't know the criteria. What criteria they are using to select the homes that they visit. But that also tells you that what they are doing, they understand that this is already in the communities, and they need to do widespread testing. But there, at the federal level, we are very reluctant to do most widespread testing. And I don't understand why that is. I mean, it's one thing for you not to be afraid that you don't have the capacity to do that. It's another thing to say, oh, it's just that you don't want people to know how big or how massive this pandemic is within this country. I don't know. But the thing now is that if and when you decide as a country that, okay, we want to go for mass testing, but we are limited because of this current platform that we are using. Okay, we have this platform that can do a lot more, but these are the challenges that we have in putting it to use. What I should expect is that government should be leading the charge to say, okay, you know what, NCDC, you have this platform, these are your challenges from using it. I want everything possible done to ensure that you start putting these machines to use.
Okay, but
as a start, let's even say the 6,000 people that you have been tracking. Let's test all of them.
Now, you're a member of the lab group of the presidential task force. So all of these suggestions and ideas, have you put that forward? Have you interacted with the group?
Okay, well, as I speak with you, I've not interacted with the PTF as we speak. I just know that I've been you're a member of this team. We'll be meeting every day for over a week now, but we are yet to meet with the presidential task force on COVID-19.
Why? We're talking about the lab group here, aren't we? Well, but you know, when you also say that we have to have, if we can get the appropriate test kits, then we can perhaps meet up with that 30,000 capacity. But we know that globally, the countries are struggling with these test kits. So isn't that, if they were to put forward that reason, wouldn't that be tenable that, look, well, we don't have those test kits, so we can't meet up with this capacity?
Okay, so that's what I was actually alluding to when I said, okay, what are the challenges to NCDC? Okay, you have this platform. What are the challenges to getting this thing to use? Now, maybe the first challenge will be we need the test kits. We have the manufacturer. So let me just even enumerate for that. Not just NCDC. Okay, so we have the Cobas 8800 manufactured by Roche. We have 2 of that in NCDC. We have another 2 in the National Reference Lab, the Defense Reference Lab in Mogadishu, in Abuja here. We have another 2 in Naima in Lagos. Then the Abbott M2000 platforms, right? We have 6 other labs in Uyo, Oka, and Makurdi. And this can do over 2,000 tests in 24 hours. So the kits are available. Like you said, there is a global competition for these test kits. I'm aware that in Nigeria, for the Roche platform, we have been able to, at least with a firm order by some of the bilateral partners for about 15,000 tests, which is a drop in the ocean compared to, what we need. I'm also aware that there's a testing projection, a targeted testing projection that have been done that Nigeria needs to do 3.9 million tests in 3 months if we were to mitigate the effect of this whatever. But we are still at this level doing how many tests? When you check the worldometer.info website, which every country updates on a daily or a regular basis, Nigeria still has 5,000 tests performed. It's been there like that for like more than 2 or 3 days now. So now we are still crawling the number of tests that we do. Whereas we have so what you want to expect is that the government to take, because everybody is using their connection or whatever, but you need the government to do that, to talk to who you have to talk to. Like you have to call President Trump. Look at the President Trump's press conference last night when he was talking about ventilators that Italy, France, they are planning to send despite the fact that they are in need of ventilators in their own country. But because those countries, their leaders or whatever, have made cases that we also need them. So we need...
Okay, we need to go at this point, really. But when you talk about 3.9 million tests in 3 months, anyway, maybe that doesn't necessarily mean that we'll have to be locked down for 3 months, because, I mean, that may get lots of things really going on. But we do thank you for your thoughts this morning. Dr. J. Ose Samuels is also a member of the lab group of the Presidential Task Force on COVID-19. Thank you for talking to us this morning.